It's time for us to get interactive here on Joy News. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We are Joy News on TV. We are coming to you live from digital address GA09925539 in Kokomemli, Accra, on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Good morning to all my lovely viewers. My name is Selina Ampo and you're welcome to Joy News Interactive. On a good note, it seems the country is finally making some headway on the topic of disbanding party militias. The governing NPP has conceded to meet the NDC on the latter's terms following the president's call for both parties to disband militia groups loyal to them. We hope their meetings would result in positive outcomes. On social media, although some have mixed reactions, others say it's a step in the right direction. Let's read some of those comments. And we have Sika Evidence who says, even if they didn't agree, Ghana first. Say no to NPP or NDC. Let's build our nation our own way and refuse to pay taxes to these blood vampires. And Opoku Benjamin says, this is all we want. This is all we want. And Atukwamina says, that's very good. At least you have to eat the humble pie. And this is from Sefa. Sefa says, we already have laws. Let's do the right thing and stop joking. And Sadat says, we are all invited. Mother Ghana is for all of us. And Williams says, oh, a nice gesture from the NPP. Well, away from that, what if you had to pay for your social media applications? Would you still snap as much, or would you still put all those inspiring messages on your WhatsApp status? For some countries, that is their reality. Millions of people in Uganda have abandoned social media after taxes were imposed on the use of networking sites and on mobile money transactions using mobile phones. Aside Uganda, Benin and Tanzania have joined the group putting a price on social media applications. Would you want to pay a social media tax if it was imposed in Ghana? Imagine it. Would you be able to snap as much? Well, I have a social media analyst, Maximus Ametogo, on Skype joining me to tell me more about this social media tax. Before we speak to Maximus, let's hop on to Facebook to read some of the comments. And we have Immortal who says, what tax again after purchasing data? I paid my taxes. Buying the phone, I paid tax. So what tax again? I'm not ready to pay any social media tax. And Akwesi Frimpong says, yes, I want to pay so that abuse of it will be eliminated or stopped. And Aliu Mahama says, in fact, it's a total cheat. We also have Eric Kwame who comes in with a comment. The citizens in Uganda can see exactly what their cash is going into and will benefit greatly from that, not in Ghana, where very few politicians would get together and share it among themselves. I never go pay. And we have Ernest who says, this is as usual, African governments raising money the old lazy way, bereft of innovation, creativity and critical thinking. No one wants or likes to pay tax, not for any reason, certainly not for looking into a screen. And I have Maximus Ametogo joining me via Skype to discuss this social media tax. Hello, Maximus.
Hello, Selena.
How are you?
I'm good.
This social media tax, is it going to become a trend in Africa? Because I've seen, aside Uganda, Tanzania and Benin have also joined the train. Is this going to become a trend in Africa?
I think it's just a cheap way of raising money from utility service users, like social media. So people are using social media to make calls, right, transact businesses, and then connect with their friends. So for me, when you buy data, it doesn't make sense to pay taxes on WhatsApp or Facebook that you use daily. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think Ghana would ever impose a social media tax on the citizens?
I think Ghana we are way ahead of a lot of countries, and
Okay.
I know the president believes in freedom of speech.
Okay.
So if social media enables Ghanaians to speak their minds freely, and though it should be lawfully, the president will not think of muffling people by using social media taxes to do that, because evidently in Uganda they've realized that from the time they imposed the tax, there has been a drop in the usage of social media and even mobile money, in millions. So they had a drop of almost 1.5 million users of social media. So if you want to earn more from social media and you tax it, then you can get that huge number of people even leaving the platform. You are not going to even achieve your aim.
Let me ask you this question. What are the effects of social media tax anyway? What's the effect of it? What's it going to do?
So the effect, it restricts, freedom of speech.
Okay.
And then discriminates against people who cannot afford to pay, not to express their minds freely. Because if I can buy data 10 megabyte, 20 megabyte, then I can express my views. That is fair. But if I have to pay extra for using the platform, you are going to, discriminate against me because I don't have money to pay the tax. And then when there's a social discourse happening on social media, I'll be restricted.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's obvious decrease, in the usage of the platform. So which means that data usage will reduce, the telcos will be affected. And if the telcos are affected, their profit will also be affected. The government won't get revenue from the telcos. So everybody will be affected.
My final question to you, I've realized that the social media tax, one of the reasons it was imposed on the citizens was because of them trying to prevent online gossiping.
Exactly.
The imposition of a tax, is it going to prevent gossip online?
It's quite funny because those who want to gossip or even champion Facebook can pay the tax and do that, and then they will even eliminate people who can even fight those fake news and gossip, who cannot afford to pay the tax. So as for taxing people because of gossip and fake news, it doesn't make sense.
Thank you very much, Maximus, for sharing that with us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We'll hop back to Facebook to read some of the comments that we had on social media taxes. And we have Immortal, who says, what tax again? We have Gabo Charles, who says, after paying telecommunications tax, can those social media apps run without internet? Ghanaians will not be surprised since our leaders don't think before they act. And Pius says, we are already paying in Ghana. You can't browse without an internet bundle. What I will say is we should use our social media property. For some are abusing it. What they should do is to ensure that it's property used rather than imposing a tax. And Ernest says, this is Usually, African governments raising money the old lazy way, bereft of innovation, creativity, and critical thinking. No one wants or likes to pay tax, not for any reason. Certainly not for looking into a screen. Well, in other news, every March 20th is the World Happy Day. You know, we are celebrating the International Day of Happiness. For this year's theme, it's a happier together, focusing on what we have in common rather than what divides us. I'm happy when I have music around, when my family and friends are around, and they make me happy. How about you? Who or what makes you happy in life? Let's read some of those comments. And Al Hassan says, my mom makes me happy. We also have Eric, who says, my work as a teacher makes me happy, but I don't have anything in my pocket, so I'm not happy today. We hope you get happy. Today is International Day for Happiness. And Olga says, seeing my children smile, that's what makes her happy. And we have Joel Peswas, who says, I'm happy because today is my birthday. Happy birthday, Joel. Very coincidental that today is your birthday on International Happy Day. And Steven says, if I see pictures of plus-size women in bikinis, very interesting. So that's what makes Steven happy. Well, interesting comments right there. It's time for us to take a breather, and when we are back, we'll be talking tech. Welcome back from that short break. You're still watching JoyNews Interactive. It's time for us to talk tech, and you know we have the right person for that. Kobe Spike Nkrumah will join me. Do you know how to set default apps on your computer? If you don't, Kobe is here and he will tell us how to set it. Hello, Kobe.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm fabulous.
So how do you set default apps on your computer?
Okay, so some people will probably be wondering, default apps, why?
What are they?
What are they? So on your computer, you have applications that handle everything. And in our previous episodes, I've taught people how to do so many things with different apps.
Yeah.
Now you'd want to know, how do I make this app the default go-to app for everything? So for instance, I have a picture here. When I open this picture, it's supposed to open with a certain application. Now, when you open that picture, it opens with a Photos app. Now, let's say I want to use a different app other than Photos. There are so many ways you can do this. You can right-click on the file, go to Properties, and then you'd see what kind of file it is. So right now you can see it's a JPG file, and it opens with photos. You can change that, and then choose which other app you'd like. So you have other options here like Paint.
Okay.
But if you open a photo with Paint, that means you want to edit it. And then we have Paint 3D, and then there's also the option to look for an app in the store besides what you already have. So maybe you want another app in the store that you want to use to do this. You just go into the store to do that. Now, this is the complicated way of doing things, and I'm sure a lot of people will get lost. So rather than doing that, you go into your settings, and the settings app you can get from your start. Once you go to your start and you go to settings, you'll see under settings, you'll see apps. Now, when you go to the apps menu, the first thing you see is apps and features, and then there's default apps. So when you go into default apps, you'll see choose default apps. Now, the default apps, you have email, which is handled by mail. Now, if you want to change that, you tap on it and you choose an app that you prefer to use. So maybe you want to use your mail in your browser because you always sign into your mail in your browser. You choose your Google Chrome browser as your default. Maps, when you want to find where you're going and all that. You can have a different Maps application. You'd be surprised. Just go into the App Store and you'd find another option. Now, music. I use a different music player for music. Some people use VLC Media Player, some people use Windows Media Player. So you can choose. If I choose Windows Media Player, that is set as default. Anytime I open a music file, it will automatically open with Windows Media Player. Now, photos, as I showed you earlier, you can also choose another one to run it, or videos. And then the most common one that everyone is always changing, the default browser. The default browser by default is Microsoft Edge. They tell you it's recommended for Windows 10. But not everybody likes Microsoft Edge. I don't. The only thing I use Microsoft Edge for is to download Google Chrome. So yeah, Google Chrome is the preferred browser. So that's how you do it. And if you make any mistake and you want to revert, you always have the reset to Microsoft's recommended default. You hit that and it will reset. You can also choose default apps by file type, like I mentioned, and then you can choose default apps by protocol. Now, protocols are quite complicated. If you're not an advanced user, don't go playing with that. So there are certain protocols. When you say a protocol, for instance, there are certain links when you click on, it takes you into a certain application. For instance, if you click on an email, you know it takes you into the mail app to send an email. That's a protocol. So if you want to change that protocol, so when you click on an email, maybe it takes you to a notepad. So you save the email, you click on that, you can change those protocols. But don't do it if you don't know how to handle it. Okay.
Well, is setting your default apps peculiar to only Windows 10?
No, you can do it for all the other application Windows OSs like the 8 and then the 8.1. But most of them have been phased out with time because Microsoft wants everyone to use Windows 10. If you're using any OS older than Windows 10, you should upgrade because you're not safe. That is a fact.
Okay.
There are a lot of exploits out there.
But I've heard some of my friends say they've tried setting to default apps, like their default apps, and then when they reboot their PC, it goes back to the old one.
Problem with
so how do you prevent it from going back?
There might be a problem with the installation of the app that you have on your computer. You need to reinstall it or go through the complex way like I showed you. Right-click on the file and go to the properties and then check to see over there if that change has been made over there. If it's still reverted, then you might want to call your IT guy.
Okay.
Like me.
Like you. Okay. Thank you very much, Kobe Spike Nkrumah, for that enlightenment. You just taught us how to set our default apps. Well, Wednesdays are for wise words. Let's do some Wednesday wisdom. And we have Lord My Swaggeth of Thunder says, early worm gets the bird. Hashtag Wednesday wisdom. And Zinnia MFA says, take the mask off and be authentic. That freedom is something we should all be living for. Hashtag Wednesday wisdom. And we have Susan who says, hashtag Wednesday wisdom. A diamond is a chunk of coal that did well under pressure. This is a quote from Henry Kissinger. And we have Parkway who says, what you choose today will determine who you are tomorrow. This is a quote from Tim Fargo. Hashtag Wednesday wisdom. Hashtag Wednesday motivation. And De Bruyne says, when you are not concerned with succeeding, you can work with complete freedom. A quote from Larry David. Hashtag quote, hashtag Wednesday wisdom, hashtag success. Well, that's it for today's edition of JoyNews Interactive with me, Selina Ampo. Join us tomorrow for some lovely and entertaining, more entertaining JoyNews Interactive stories. See you.